Good morning, everybody. You've got your self-shift crew back for another early Sunday morning, cold Sunday morning with snow on the ground in February podcast. And today we've got yet another interesting topic, practical guidance, how to practice gratitude. So you got Patrick here, Doug,
Hey everyone, it's Doug.
Derek.
Good morning, everyone. It's Derek.
It's going to be a good podcast when Derek and Doug announce themselves with such vigor and electricity. All right, but so let's jump in, and I'm going to jump into a little bit of of course, we always start with quotes and that type of thing, but also something that happened many years ago that at the time didn't resonate with me as it relates to um, what gratitude really means. But before we jump into that, any good quotes from the group here, Doug or Derek?
I have two. One is from Maya Angelou, and it's "This is a wonderful day. I have never seen this one before." And I really like that quote in terms of reframing each day as this opportunity and this gift that you're given. And the second one is from, I think, a spiritual leader that we all look to often, and that's Keanu Reeves. And he said, "Every struggle in your life has shaped you into the person you are today. Be thankful for the hard times. They can make you strong."
No, I love those, and I am the biggest Keanu Reeves fan. The guy is just he's such a good actor, but he's such a great human as well. So thank you for starting off with that quote. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I don't really have a quote, but I have a thought from my perspective of experiencing gratitude and practicing it. And that centers around, like, I found that, gratitude is like striking a match to light a candle. It just really makes a immediate connection with people when you acknowledge someone, appreciate someone, thank someone. It really does make a positive connection, it's like a spark. So that's what I would say is one of them. I guess maybe because hey, that's my thought, or at least my experience it resonates with me.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I'll just kind of follow up with one by Epictetus, right? Because I tend to think of gratitude as being very thankful for what you have, and he sums it up really well here. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Right. And I'm going to start it off with this probably happened 20 years ago. And I was playing golf at a charity event that was held for a deceased uncle of mine or a deceased uncle in law of mine. And as you both know, I'm not that good of a golfer. I'm kind of a hacker. But back in those days, I took it very seriously. Not that I, you know, um, ever thought I had, any illusions of grandeur as it relates to golf, but I felt like if I wasn't playing well, that I was down on myself. Like, oh man, why am I doing this to myself? And I was playing with it was my wife and myself, and there were another couple that we didn't know before on the same hole, and they were just like super happy, and they were playing worse than I was. And it's so finally I said something goofy like, "Man, I'm just having a bad golf day today," or something. I remember the guy just smiled and he said, um, I am playing not well either, but it's a beautiful day. The sun is out. It's April in Kentucky. The grass is beautiful and the greens are in good shape. So I'm having a good day. And at the time, it kind of hit me like, okay, that's an interesting thought process, but didn't act on it at the time. But as I started getting more into self development and mindfulness meditation and studying Buddhism and Stoicism and that type of thing, the wisdom of what that gentleman was saying, and he was younger than I was, probably really resonated with me in the sense that, a lot of suffering, especially in today's world, comes from wanting what you don't have and don't even need, right? Learning to be happy with what you have, right? Just really has changed, you know, my happiness level, right? Now, for me, I've always been a very frugal, simple person. It's never like I had illusions of, anything that I needed a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or anything like that. But gratefulness also helps you to ground yourself and not be envious of others' titles or others who are being promoted faster than you or others who can code better than you or whatever the case may be. So what I did many years ago, and I still do it every day, and I've got it actually in my notebook here, is I do journaling, right? In the evenings, I do journaling based upon some of the work or some of the classes that I took with Dr. Martin Seligman as relates to Apollo psychology. What went well today? Doesn't have to be anything huge. Could be, had a good dinner, right? Or a meeting that I expected to go bad went actually well. Or I heard my favorite song on the radio. As a matter of fact, I tend to stay away from the big, grandiose things and try to take pleasure or try to take delight in the smaller things. And then in the mornings, I do a broader journal in which I journal what did I do well yesterday? What could I have done better? What three things am I grateful for? What must I get done today? And overall, how am I feeling doing overall?
Mm.
And the gratefulness is one that I really look forward to because and it brings a smile to my face. And, I'll give examples here in a minute. But just understanding that as much as we may think that we don't have what we need, most of the time we do. And being able to take delight or delight's maybe not the right word, but to really appreciate what we have has changed my whole concept of self development. Doug.
Yeah, I think I've shared this before, but again, there was a point in time, I guess I was in my early 40s, that I was very miserable at work, and that led me to start to research, what contributes to happiness and what are things you can do to try to be happier and things like that. And it's interesting, this topic of gratitude. I read The Happiness Advantage, I read The Happiness Equation, I read 10% Happier, and every one of them, like, the number one thing you could do is practice gratefulness and practice gratitude. And at the time, I was like, I don't know how much I'm believing this, but I can tell you that at work, everything that happened, I took through a negative lens. And I was like, oh crap, now I got to do this. Now I got to figure that out. Why won't this person do the things they're supposed to do? And now I got to do those things. Everything I received through that. Well, when you read three different books or other things are telling you, try gratefulness and gratitude. And then I started to try journaling, just like you're saying, Patrick. And, the key sort of prompt, as you were saying, is what three things am I grateful for today? And, I started out kind of generic and high level and like happy to be alive, happy for my sons, whatever, those kind of things. But then as you practice it, you get more granular in what you're grateful for. And, happy I got to spend 10 minutes talking to my high school son who, may have been busy with his world and those kind of things, or, happy I got to take a walk outside with my wife or whatever. Again, by getting more granular and more specific, I can tell you I really did feel a shift, maybe a self shift. I really did feel a shift in terms of like I received things through a more positive lens. So something would happen at work and I'd say, all right, we got this. We know how to handle this or whatever. So, again, where our listeners may be saying, I don't know about this. I'm telling you, making that shift can really change how you receive things, and it really changes kind of your daily happiness level. And I don't know what else to say, but I also want to say, Patrick, you keep hitting on this term contentment and being content. And I feel like that is sort of like the next level of gratitude, is like it's being content with what you have, being content in all this. I don't know, it's like that next level. I'll stop talking, Derek.
No, that was great. And just to back up what
Yeah.
Doug was saying, just real quick, Derek, book after book, right? And these are just random books that I have, at on my desk here. All echo what Doug was saying, right? About gratefulness being in science, right? The fact that it actually, we talk about negativity bias all the time on the call here, or on the podcast here, and being grateful, expressing gratitude helps counterbalance negativity bias. And I had negativity bias was a serious drag on my life for many, many years. And I think to Doug's point, practicing that has allowed me to self-regulate better, to counterbalance the negativity bias that is wired into us, folks. Again, keep in mind your brain is not designed to make you happy. Your brain is designed to keep you alive, and negativity bias is clear there. And to Doug's point again, study after study shows a common theme through all of the different modalities, right? Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Sorry, Derek. I just wanted to echo, but amplify what Doug was.
No, those are awesome points. And I'll take it even more specific. Like yesterday, I was driving on the interstate and I was under a time schedule to get somewheres and so forth. And I had a blowout, a flat tire right there on the interstate. And, it's those things happen, right? A negative event will happen in your life in a moment. And, in the past, I'd have been pissed off and out, just that energy of just upset angry, why did this happen? And, debating it from a negative perspective within my own head. And instead of that, I just was like, well, I'm grateful right now that I have roadside assistance through my insurance policy and that I can, navigate this and call them or log a request through the app and, get support to resolve this. And as I was doing that, I was thinking, I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to have this policy with this roadside assistance. And in that, like, just, perspective, it made it all work out. Within 30 minutes they arrived, they had it changed, and I was back on my way. And something I thought would be an hour and a half, 2 hour event turned into was there 30 minutes. And I think that in the moment of that, the point is I didn't like go in the past of how I would typically would have reacted negatively and said, oh, threw my hands up and rant and raved around the side of the car and this, that, and the other. I just said, I'm just going to log a ticket. I'm grateful right now that I have roadside assistance that can help me resolve this and get me back going again. And it worked out. It worked out, in a positive way. So something negative worked out in a positive way. So that can be applied in any situation you're in. Is shifting your perspective. That's what you both have alluded to here.
Yeah, no, and shifting the perspective and going back to our podcast last week, I believe it was psychological flexibility, recognize, accept, and go, and which gratitude, at least for me, and I think the science backs it up, creates distance between the experience and the interpretation, right? So
Mhm.
you don't necessarily attach, you diffuse from it, right? And you could be grateful for a situation. And, at least for me, it improves mental and physical outcomes across the board, right? Because when I can be truly grateful for what I've got and I'm not attached to something that I don't have, again, going back to what the Buddha said, attachment is the root of all suffering or whatever the case may be. But when you're able to, recognize where you are, what you have, and be content with that is like, at least from my perspective, is super powerful. And again, there, if you would have asked me to try gratefulness or gratitude 15 years ago, right? I would have sat down at the desk for 15 minutes trying to make things up, make what I'm grateful for today. And I would have had to elaborate. Okay, it's got to be grandiose because I sure as hell didn't like my day at work and my dog had made a mess or whatever the case may be. But just over the last couple of days, things that I'm truly grateful for, right? And I'm actually looking at my notes. I had a really good coffee with a friend on Thursday morning, right? Just 45 minutes before work, and we had a really good conversation. On Friday, I had good engagement with my meetings, right? I tend my meeting calendar can be an indicator of my level of stress and mood because the more meetings, the more my stress goes up because feel like I'm not doing actual work. But when I'm able to engage in the meetings and actually be productive and move things along and lead people, I'm grateful for that. Right. So nothing grandiose. I didn't win the Nobel Prize or anything like that. And like a couple things yesterday that I'm super grateful for. Several of us play pickleball on Saturday morning, and I'm probably the least skilled player, but the fact that I'm able to enjoy it and just participate and have some good conversation and that type of things while the balls go behind me and above me, that kind of stuff. I'm grateful for that, right? To have that interaction, and also did bowling, last night, which I'm worse at bowling than I'm at pickleball and golf. So I only played like 5 times in my life, but the fact that it was a nice place. I was with good friends having good conversation. I was grateful for it, even though I was consistently embarrassing myself on the bowling, including the 3-year-old girl that next to me that kept laughing at me. So anyway, guys, what I'm trying to drive here is it's I've seen people make it difficult to be grateful because it's got to be something really big, right? I got promoted to vice president of my company, or I was able to buy a new car or whatever. It doesn't have to be that. It's the simple things. It's the journey. Sorry for that rambling. Duh.
Oh, that was really good. And I'll go back to Derek, your example with your tire and that kind of thing. Like, again, we're talking about practical ways to practice gratitude and, connecting it to your recognize, accept, and go, the recognize part. If you can recognize you're in a situation where you're kind of receiving it a little negative and you can reframe the situation like you did, Derek, I think that has a very positive effect into it. Like, I used to get annoyed at work when my boss would come to me and say, hey, I have a new opportunity for you. But like for me, it was a problem that somebody was making me fix that somebody else created and those
Well,
kind of things. And like going back to your comment, Patrick, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, like I try to go to my sons and say, here's things you can try that'll have this positive impact on your life. And they're like, get out of here, you old man. You don't know what you're talking about. But like I've seen the benefit and I've felt the benefit. And if you can figure out how to reframe things, if you can figure out how to enjoy the small things like you're saying and really like feel good that like, so going to your pickleball thing, I happened to be there with Patrick, and last night, like my shoulder was killing me because Patrick kept lobbing him up and I kept hitting him down. But you know, I had to, and I was like, damn, I don't know if I could keep doing this. But then I was like, oh, I'm so grateful on Saturday morning, even though Patrick makes me get up super early. I'm so grateful. Like I feel so great after we play,
I do
like
too.
just to have gotten out and gotten mobile and just and been around, you know, the fellowship around the people. And it, again, take everything you're experiencing and just realize like you're lucky to be alive. You're lucky, you know, to enjoy these things. But yeah, it's not about the grandiose things. It's about enjoying the small things.
Yeah. Derek.
Yeah, I think one thing to point out a little differently is in lines of what you both are saying about being grateful to play pickleball, grateful to bowl with someone, spend time, have coffee with someone. When you are in that perspective of gratitude and appreciation for that moment, it really can lift another up. It really can make an immediate difference for another. And it's just being present with them. It's having that energy of positivity, gratitude, appreciation for the moment. And then that really can lift another up to where their day gets better, or in that moment they see it differently. So it's really a powerful way to live, and it's not just for you, it's actually for another too that you may be associating with or you're dealing with a situation with, and just bringing that perspective of gratitude. And if you're in an argument with someone or a conflict, and just say, hey, you know what, I really appreciate this moment is the fact that we're able to sit here and have a conversation, tough conversation, and we are able to navigate this and have different opinions or perspectives, but I am grateful to be here with you. And to be able to say that in the moment, in something even like that, can really light that spark I talked about earlier, and like lighting a wick on a candle. It can instantly create a positive jolt of energy into a tough or troubling situation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think you hit on something really, really important. I'm sorry I keep going off here. I'm actually grabbing books. You guys are hitting on really cool subjects. And one of the things that Dr. Doty, who unfortunately passed away recently, Dr. James noted this is his book, Mind Magic, talks about is that when gratitude and compassion and even motivation and science-backed, development is based in helping others, there's an extra boost to that, right? And his thought is that humans are designed or evolved to be compassionate, right? And to help our clan and that type of thing. And I find personally that when I am grateful for something that I was able to do that really helped somebody else, then the gratefulness or the gratitude becomes even broader, right? Even if that person doesn't even know it, that I did something or nobody knows it, right? I find the fact that I was able to do something, only I know that I did it. It helped somebody. That is the feeling of I was going to say great gratefulness, but that's probably not. It's feeling of extreme gratitude, right? So I think that's a really, really key point. And going back to what we've talked about, because we want to tie this back to self-guided development, self-shift, as Doug has pointed out several times, is gratitude is not just about feeling good in the moment, right? Now, I've gotten to a point when I journal and write or even when I'm getting ready to meditate, I'll say the three things that I'm grateful for that day. I can find myself with a smile. I can sense a smile coming on when I'm, writing down or thinking about the things that I'm grateful for, and that's just a feeling of contentment and just pleasure, even if it was yesterday, right? I'm, just kind of in the moment and feeling that piece of it. And it also sets a level of, especially in the mornings when I do it, a level of, man, I've got a really tough day ahead of me. But I am so grateful for these three or four things that are in my life or that I've experienced or whatever. It puts things in perspective. Like, again, going back to the recognize, accept, go is, observing these things that you're grateful for and making sure that you're not fusing with things that are just popping into your head. So, anyway, I'm kind of rambling a bit there, but the science behind this is fairly strong as it relates to this. It crosses a bunch of themes of philosophy, like Stoicism and Buddhism and that type of thing, and Christianity, whatever your faith is. There's typically a underlying theme of be grateful for what you got. And I would also say, especially for the younger crowd, like things are tough on young folks these days, right? And there's such a need, especially with social media. And we've talked about this before. Again, you're looking at highlight reels, man, for people, other people's lives. And it's so easy for those folks to get caught up in, other people have more than I have, or the star football player or the head cheerleader or whatever the case may be, right? And it's easy to get caught up in, they've got it better than I. Now it's been, 50 years since I was a teenager, but um, just seeing how with my own sons and others getting into this concept of being grateful, I think can really help the youngsters as well. Doug.
So I really liked when you proposed this episode around like practical how to go practice it and things like that. So I was doing a little research. We all know sort of the journaling kind of thing. And I was like, what are some other things? And some examples that I found. One was like the red light reset. So you come upon a red light and, that can be annoying, like you're trying to get where you're going, but take that opportunity, use that as a trigger to say, okay, here's a chance for me to think about some things I'm grateful for today. Or there's one, it was the gratitude jar where you have Post-its next to a jar.
Mhm.
And as you pass it, you write down something and you put it in the jar and you see that visual of the jar filling up. Anyways, there's lots of triggers that are kind of good, and I always like when Patrick gets all scientific on us and he talks about neuroplasticity or other things. So I was also looking at kind of framing the benefits of gratitude. And one was that gratitude, like science has shown, gratitude can lower cortisol, the stress hormone, by up to 23%. And I thought that was really interesting. And I would say, I see that, like, again, we talked about my stress avoidance and trying to remove stress from my life, which is impossible. But so then the holy grail thing I was going to go to, you often bring up Dr. Martin Seligman. He talked about the gratitude letter, where you sit down and you think about somebody you're really grateful for your life. You write this letter out, and that's great. The act of writing it out gives you a positive boost, but actually going to visit the person and reading the letter to them
Wow.
has shown that
Mm.
it's shown scientifically that, and this is a Dr. Martin Seligman thing, but has shown that like it's more beneficial to you, the person that's writing it and reading it, and the actual reading it aloud gives a positive benefit. But also think about how great that person feels that,
Yeah.
you shared this positive thing, and his, talking about the impact or whatever, like Dr. Martin Seligman said that might lead to like up to a full month of just the positive outcome and benefit of that action. Both sides feeling happier and better for up to like a full month.
Nice. Very nice. Derek.
Yeah, I that totally resonated with me. Like, you're actually getting your thoughts together and you're writing it out on paper and you're reading it, whether it's to your, even reading it to yourself. I mean, if you're a negative person and you think negatively of yourself, how about you just write a letter to yourself and say what's actually in what you're grateful for and what's positive about you and read it to yourself. Like, it's reading it to others, it's reading it to yourself. Like, it actually will make you feel better. To your point, that it can last for quite a while. If you just take a notepad, take even a sticky note here and create a board, a little poster board, and every day that you think of something negative, well, think of something positive and write it there and stick it on that board. And before you know it, you'll start noticing that shift that's happening in your energy because it's an energy thing, as you think you are. And, when you think of things that you're grateful for and you appreciate about yourself or about others or about circumstances, that becomes contagious energy that fuels you in a positive way. And that's what I would say, wrapping up today that leave everybody with. And I'd say that a lot of people, you don't have to wait till Thanksgiving to practice gratitude. Thanksgiving is every day for you. There's something to be thankful for each and every day, not just a one day at the end of the year in November that you get together everybody to talk about what you're thankful for the year. It's an everyday of that. Thanksgiving is your everyday event in life that propels you and gives you optimism and hope and positivity.
I'll quickly wrap up as well, just to build on what Derek said, as far as, like, again, another person to share your gratefulness is with yourself. And so, like you're saying, doing that letter to yourself, I think, is a really positive step. And again, that way, be kind to yourself.
Yeah. I knew you. I knew you were going to work it in there, Doug. So, and I guess I'll close this out here. And I just want to reinforce the practicality of either sitting down and each day and 3 things you're grateful for, or go, get a notebook. This is what I do. 3 things that you're grateful for. And again, guidance, because I struggled with this initially. If gratitude feels like effort, if it's an effort for you to find things that you're grateful for, you're probably pushing instead of noticing, right? The key is to observe and notice things that you're grateful for. And I'll leave you also with this. Peace is not found in a different life. This is one of the key things of gratefulness. Peace is found in a different relationship to this one. And remember, be curious, not judgmental. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.